Now today, ladies and gentlemen of this church house jury, I have two questions for you. Number one, is Bishop still clapping back about the Prophet Manasseh Jordan and the Diddy freak-off party power bottom rumors?
I'm going to ask you for a favor before we take the offering. I'm going to ask you not to use your cameras to stream on whatever you might be streaming on.
And number two, has Bishop's son-in-law, Brandon Coleman, finally been transferred from the Ellis County Jail, where he still was in custody as of January the 15th, 2023, to his new Texas Department of Criminal Justice prison cell? And if so, what does Sister Cora have to say about it?
We are going to fight this thing together. I need to know what you're fighting the enemy with so I can stand behind you and I can incubate whatever it is that we need to incubate until the next birthing and the next birthing. Do not leave your husband in a battle to fight on his own.
Yeah. Hi there, I'm Professor Blackmore, and welcome back to my channel and to my series entitled Potter's House Pedo-Files. And as you know, the husband of Bishop TDJakes' daughter, Cora Jakes, i.e. Bishop's son-in-law, Brandon Coleman, was accused of carrying out various child sexual abuse activities as alleged by his and Cora's 13-year-old adopted daughter, as incorporated after the convening of an Ellis County, Texas grand jury in this 5-count indictment, wherein he was accused of touching the child's private areas. And as you also know, after he declared and decreed that he did not touch the child, on October the 23rd, 2023, Brandon Coleman pled guilty to counts 2 and 5 of the indictment, as authenticated by his signature here on this plea agreement that was entered by the court. Now, in return, the prosecutor dismissed counts number 1, 3, and 4. And for reasons that I have laid out in previous editions of this podcast episode series, count number 1 was void on its face because I really think the court lacked jurisdiction because Cora and her husband had not lived in the county long enough to meet the jurisdictional limits set forth in the statute, and I really think the prosecutor eventually realized this too. But I guess that's all water under the bridge at this point. And in the meantime, as you know, Bishop has been dealing with a whole another crop of scandals of his own, with all of the Prophet Manasseh Jordan and the Diddy power bottom rumors that have had the internet on pure fire. And as you know, I covered every detail of Bishop's attempt to explain himself during his Christmas Eve sermon, which in my opinion was an epic fail on his part. And ever since then, he's been clapping back every chance he gets to get his little backside in that pulpit, making his little digs at people out here on this church house internet when we're just minding our own business.
It's not enough to come to church or observe church or watch church or be a church voyeur or a church peeping Tom. This is a moment for the royal priesthood. This is a moment for the holy nation.
Now, you'll remember during my preview of Bishop's New Year's Eve watch night service, I showed you how he was trying to tell us how we should be spending our time out here on this internet. And now he's trying to tell us what we can and cannot do with our phones during church too?
I'm going to ask you for a favor before we take the offering. I'm going to ask you not to use your cameras to stream on whatever you might be streaming on. We already have several streaming options available. We don't want to compete with your phone, and we don't want you to be a producer when you should be a receiver. I have seen people, I have noticed over the last few months, even in the altar call, people are coming to Jesus and filming You got to decide, are you going to really receive this thing, or are you going to record this thing for people you don't even know? You got to get something for yourself. Sometimes it's okay to be a little selfish. You got to get something for yourself and get something you can take back with you that strengthens you for the week. I'm not saying you can't take a picture, but don't start a company. My God.
Now, y'all know this man is controlling and messy as hell. And y'all know I love messy people. And I really don't know how he thinks he's gonna hand this church over to Sarah and Toure, because ain't no damn body over there as messy as Thomas Dexter Jake's ass. And although Sarah has a little bit of heat on her, she ain't no damn where as messy as Bishop's ass. And Toure, well, his ass is just boring. And I really don't see what Sarah sees in him, because he's as boring as hell. But I guess that ain't none of my business. Although, what I will say is that between the Prophet Manasseh Jordan rumors, the power bottom rumors, and his son-in-law's child molestation scandal, none of it has stopped Bishop from clapping back with his messy self. Oh, but let me stay focused, y'all, because as I have advised you in prior episodes of this podcast series, by signing this plea agreement, Brandon Coleman has agreed to serve a term of imprisonment of 20 years for both counts, i.e. counts number 2 and 5, concurrently rather than consecutively. In other words, when we say he'll serve the 20-year terms concurrently, we mean that he'll serve the 20 years for both counts at the same time for a total time period of 20 years. Now, if he had to serve the two 20-year terms consecutively, that would mean that he would have had to serve them back to back for a total time period of 40 years. And I guess a total of 20 years is better than the 30 years that he was offered when he signed this plea rejection back in April of 2023. Nevertheless, by signing this plea agreement, Brandon Coleman has waived his right to any appeal. And so he does not have any option to appeal anything that occurred from the criminal courtroom procedural standpoint during the over 548 days that he had been held in jail awaiting his trial up until the time that he signed the plea agreement. Now, just prior to the time that he entered into the plea agreement, I advised you of this media discovery receipt that was filed on September the 14th, 2023, detailing documents obtained by the prosecutor specifying jailhouse surveillance records that were shared with Brandon Coleman's attorney, including, quote, 61 video recordings of jail visits, i.e. of anyone who had visited Brandon Coleman at the Ellis County Jail, 799 audio recordings of Brandon Coleman's jailhouse phone calls, and 3 other PDF documents, including 7 pages of Brandon Coleman's jail mail, 9,813 pages of written transcripts of his phone calls, and a written log detailing video history logs, end quote. Now, these materials could very likely have included videos of Brandon Coleman being videotaped anywhere within the jail facility complex and any time during his over 448-day stay while he was held in custody. Now, just wrap your mind around all of that. I mean, you have almost 800 audio recordings. It was a massive amount of media materials. And many of you were stunned to learn that Brandon Coleman ultimately pled guilty to the charges. But with this massive amount of media surveillance, I can only speculate that maybe he was caught saying something incriminating on one of these jailhouse phone calls or videos, allegedly. But Whether he actually did the crime or not, I have no idea. Notwithstanding the fact that we're being led to believe that his wife, Sister Cora, knows how a wife should hold it down.
And so it's important for you to sit down with your husbands. After this conference, sit down with your husbands and say, how can I better serve you in your struggles?
Come on. That's it.
Because I know how to serve you dinner.
Right.
I can cook you breakfast. I can cook you dinner. I can cook you lunch. I can make sure everything's packed. I can be on autopilot and run this house with my eyes closed. But when you're struggling, there's a silence in us. Because you have already made up in your mind that I don't have the capacity to struggle with you. And I'm going to change that. This weekend, I'm letting you know I'm in the battle with you. Yes. We are going to fight this thing together. I need to know what you're fighting the enemy with so I can stand behind you and I can incubate whatever it is that we need to incubate until the next birthing and the next birthing. Do not leave your husband in a battle to fight on his own.
Yeah.
Well, I guess you fell off real quick this time, and I didn't see any incubation during this struggle, baby girl, but let me stay focused, y'all, because up until now, until January the 15th, 2023, Brandon Coleman was still being held at the Ellis County Jail, at which time he had served a total of 620 days since he was first arrested around the May 4th, 2022 time period. And sometime between January the 15th and January the 17th, 2023, Brandon Coleman was transferred to the custody of the Texas Department of Criminal Justice, at which time he was assigned to the Beto unit located in Tennessee Colony, Texas. He has a projected maximum release date of April 23rd, 2042, and he will be eligible for parole on April the 22nd, 2032, which is about 8 years from now, although he will be on the sex offender registry for life. But at this time, he is temporarily ineligible to receive any visits. And so, after spending almost 2 years in the custody of the Ellis County Jail, Brandon Coleman is now starting a new chapter in this horrific journey. And I guess this is one less scandal that Bishop has to deal with. But I am certain that it does not mean that he'll be doing any less clapping back. But what do you think? Do you think Bishop is done clapping back now that his son-in-law's child molestation scandal has ended? I mean, he's still being plagued with the Diddy freak-off party, power bottom rumors, and the allegations made by this Prophet Manasseh Jordan. But please let me know what you think by leaving your comments in the comments section below. And please give me a big thumbs up. And I hope you'll also consider donating to this video and my entire channel ministry by donating to the ProfessorBlackmore.com Cash App. And I hope you'll also subscribe to my YouTube channel and click the bell so you'll be notified whenever I come back with more hot tea from the church house, the courthouse, and everywhere else, honey child. And please also follow me on TikTok and Instagram.